What's down, people, and welcome back to another episode of Ghetto Gospel. So where we left off at. Last week, we talked about how different folks do different things in different parts of the world. We also talked about Jacob making a deal with his uncle Laban to work for him for 7 years so he could have his daughter Rachel. The last thing we talked about was how Rachel ain't even much getting no say in the matter. And now we caught up. So this week, we picking it back up at verse 20. And it say that Jacob worked 7 years to get Rachel, but it only felt like a few days to him because he loved her so much. Alright, I guess that is giving some romantic mushy vibes. But then look what happened. So he rolled up on his uncle like, "Say, Unc, I done did my 7 years, now give me my wife." So Laban invited all the men from the spot where they lived at and threw a big old feast. Why just the men? I ain't 100% sure, but it seemed like men and women used to live a lot more separate back then. So it's possible they just ain't party together. Either way, this was essentially like a wedding dinner. But then people Laban do. He give Leah, yeah, that's what I'm imagining she looks like, to Jacob instead of Rachel. Oh, and I guess he also gave Leah one of his slaves named Zilpah, but it don't say when that happened. It might have been at the wedding feast or later on, but that's just the second messed up part here. So when Jacob woke up in the morning and saw Leah, he rolled up on Laban like, "Bam, what you done did to me? Ain't I worked 7 years for Rachel? How you gonna play me like that?" And Laban was like, yeah. Round here, we don't give away the young daughters before we give away the old ones. Sound like getting married first was Leah's birthright. See how things coming full circle? So then Laban was like, look here, finish out this week. I guess you could call it like the honeymoon week. Celebrate with your new wife, and then I'll give you Rachel if you work for me another 7 years. And it say that Jacob did just that. He finished the week of wedding celebration, which had to be awkward to say the least. And then Laban gave him Rachel for his wife. And it say he gave Rachel his slave Bilhah. And so Jacob smashed Rachel too. And it tell us that he loved Rachel more than he loved Leah. And then he worked for Laban another 7 years. It did not say it only felt like a few days to him. This dang, I still can't say that. This dude Laban grimy, yeah. Not only did he let that man work 7 years for Rachel, knowing he wasn't gonna let Rachel get married first, but now he just pimping his daughter to get free labor out of that man. And what kind of person give enslaved folks as wedding gifts? Probably the kind of person who owns slaves as property. Touche. I mean, I guess it's possible he thought Leah would have been married off by the time them 7 years was up, but he could have told Jacob that was the custom from the jump. Instead, we see in Jacob, the player who played his brother, getting played by his uncle. And now in the span of a week, Jacob got 4 new mouths to feed and a 7-year extension on his contract. Leah gotta share her husband with her fine little sister that her husband wanted the whole time, and Rachel got cheated out of her wedding celebration. Pay attention, it don't say they had a celebration for her wedding. Now some of y'all probably like, how that man ain't recognized that wasn't the woman he had been waiting 7 years to get? And it's a couple of possible explanations for that. For number one, if the wedding was at night, I mean, wasn't none of these around back then. But also, if you was rocking with me back when I did episode 43, I talked a little bit about how folks thought back then about veils. So it's likely that woman was wearing a veil on her wedding night. And I imagine her pops probably told her she better not say nothing or else. So even though she may or may not have been cool with the situation, she couldn't have tipped Jacob off anyway. So we gonna pin it right there with this not so happy ending. So that's it for this week. If you don't know Jesus, but you trying to get to know him, go and click that link in the description down there. I'll see y'all next week. And as always, peace. I hope y'all people straight.